Productions, Surviving the Last of Us. I'm Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty, cognitive psychologist, philosopher at Illinois State University.
And I'm Dr. Leandra Parris, aka Doom Raider, Associate Dean of Diversity and Inclusion at the School of Education at William & Mary.
And today we've come together to discuss episode 5, Endure and Survive. Joining us in the conversation today is a dear colleague, Dr. Shengtian Wu. Shengtian, please tell the audience a little something about who you are and what you do.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Shengtian Wu. I'm an assistant professor at ISU School Psych Programs. And this is my favorite games all time. And I didn't know there's a podcast going on in our department. So I was very excited to join this one. FYI, I played over 5 times for the season 1. I played more than 5 times for season 2. So that's how much I love it, so I'm very happy to join this one.
That's fantastic. We have a bit we do at the end of the show about playing the game, because Leandra's played the game multiple times. I'm trying to play the game, and I have to admit I'm not being very committed Patreon, but we'll talk about that when we get to the end. So the floor is up. I know, actually, we'll begin with Shengtian. Favorite line, favorite character, favorite scene. Just pick one, and I'm sure we'll talk.
I love all of them. Gosh, Elli. The favorite one is, I don't know. Everyone that I fucking loved left except you. That's the one. That's the one break me, and not being teary, but has a little tears in my eyes. But the short lines just makes me think about the life of Elli, life of Joel, and the interactions at the moment. It was I don't know, kind of sad but beautiful moment in my opinion. I don't know. It was the moment that they unconsciously getting connected, But that was for me, it was impressive and one of the favorite lines in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I also wanted to be like, yet.
Oh yeah, for
the world they live in.
Right.
But I can see where she's going with that, where I finally have some stability, damn it. Stop, right? And I think that Elli, more than anyone, really appreciates stability. I think she's starting to realize how great, and that's really what she thinks about, all the things that she missed out on pre all of this. It is the stability. It's the ability to play games, to have fun, to fly in the sky. So that reminder of everybody else is gone or is left but you is it's hard.
Very hard, yeah.
And we've talked about this before, but this is a very different time scale of memory that we're seeing mourned than we saw in Walking Dead. And I don't know if it would be easier to write a 20-year time jump or in the moment, right? Because in Walking Dead, they were all struggling with the fact that the world changed as they were watching it. And so they were all sort of scared and reorganizing. Where now they've kind of adapted to it, except in this case, Ellie's out in the world, Joe's been there. So she's adapting to the world she's not seen. So maybe they get to have both time scales of memory, right? Hers is a little more immediate because she's not been outside of the QZ, and Joel's been out there before. I don't know, but I enjoy the way they're using memory in this one. All right, I'm gonna go straight up and tell you my favorite scene. I study joint action. So in the lab, what I do is I look at how anticipations about the other person develop as two people do something together. And people don't focus on each other's bodies. What they focus on is the effects that their actions create together. And then each person learns how to organize their body in relation to those effects they're anticipating the others are going to produce. So you're really planning about the other person, not in terms of their bodies, but in terms of the effects they're going to have on what you're trying to make happen. And that scene, first of all, where she decides she's going to go try to save the two guys, and then she's running across, and then Joel's picking off. I'm going to use word monsters. I hear that taboo zombies is a taboo word for this show.
Infected, yeah.
Infected,
right? Yeah. But first of all, you got to believe Joel is that good of a shot, right? You've got to believe that hitting a moving target at 100 yards, nonetheless, given that he's such a good shot, seeing her learn, learn in real time what he was doing, having him learn in real time what she was going to do, and then coordinating their actions, such as his job was to keep infected off of her. I just thought that was, I don't know if that's the game. All I know is that it was a brilliant way to demonstrate what cooperation is, because it's not about bodies. It's about trying to make some specific event happen together in the world. And I thought there's the psychology of her becoming a hero, right? I mean, for the second time, she's become a hero. And then Joel kind of, okay, this is my teammate, and just, okay, I got to kill these things. They're trying to kill her. I just love the ratcheting up of the depth of their relationship. I'll stop talking, but I just love that scene. Plus,
I also love,
go ahead, man.
I also love that Joe has that facial expressions like a crap, she's going to do something. And then he's like, darn it. And then start aiming at those infected and stuff. And I don't know if Joe was thinking of her as just teammate, or is there any other, unconscious emotions like this one is resemble my daughter? I don't know if that was part of it, but I think at the point they are considering them as really, important person to each other and then protecting. Interestingly, Ellie's facial expression tells me, I don't know if she's aware of other surroundings. She's aware of Joe is protecting her. Like she's like so much focused on these two friends are dying. I want to go help her and just run. And she got to survive and then just help them. And I don't know. I just have a lot of thoughts about like, Elli, what's going on in your mind? What's the most important things at the moment? Because she's trying to sacrifice herself, her life to help without knowing if she's effectively able to help these two people, but she's doing it, So that was, I say out of the the episode 5, that's the most impressive scene for myself, to be honest.
I do think there's a moment where she looks back to the house, and I think there's a look in her eye where like I can almost, if I'm just putting myself in there, like saying a little bit of a prayer, like Joel, please see me. Like she's looking back to where he's sitting and she's like, oh, right before he leaves, he says, do you trust me? Right. And she kind of sits back and she's like, yeah, I do. And so whenever she looks back at that house right before she leaves, that to me kind of stood out as a moment. All right, like I said, I trusted him. I'm gonna go. And I'm going to take some faith. And I think that was a really big step, because I think you're right. She doesn't know for sure if Joel's going to be able to back her up. She doesn't know what's going to happen. Like she's just going to do her best. And so I think with the previous episode, I was maybe not as fair because I didn't think about as much about their relationship building. And now you're seeing it play out even more. I think that's really beautiful because my husband's watching it and it's like, well, everyone they meet is dying. And I'm like, well, the story really isn't about any one particular group except for these two people. And so you're getting to see their relationship cemented and grow through their interactions with other people. Now, do they have to die every episode? I don't know. But, again, I think that's been a really interesting thing to watch. It's almost like a monster of the week, but instead it's the like hero of the week or like the sidekick of the week, and how they both are reacting and growing and becoming a cohesive unit through these interactions has been really, really beautiful.
It is. And I think it's the first time they talk about trust. Do you trust me? And that's, I think it's a big moment for these two people, at least.
Yes. Yes. Do you trust me to be able to protect you at a distance? Or do you trust that I know what I'm doing in this space? She has no clue. I mean, yes. So she takes her past experience and kind of feels okay with it and says, yes, right. I said it before, but I love how the depth of their relationship increases even though they're further apart with their bodies, right? People fall in love online all the time, and that's the thing. The joint action, being together, is I mean, there are aspects of being together, of course, that require bodies. That's, you know, we know this, right? But there are depths to being together that have nothing to do with bodies, right? It has to do with, you know, action at a distance, if you like. And I thought this one, I think they had fun. I mean, you're right. Joel's kind of sitting there. Oh, shit. I bet there's also a wee bit of terror in there, right? And that gets to your unconscious comment, your comment about his unconscious concern for her, right? Yeah, to do that scene, hey, how you doing? To do that scene and then to do the final scene, jeepers, creepers, man, that's bold. And to feel, the scene with the little boy at the end.
Oh yeah, that one, yeah.
And then to write it so that those two didn't feel like plot devices for Ellie and Joel. That's the challenge. You know, they know that those two characters are going to die in that episode. So how do we write this so that they don't feel like the audience doesn't feel like they were tools, so we could get Joel and Ellie to a certain point in the story, you know? And they did that with Frank, right? And what was his name? Frank and
Bill.
Yeah.
Bill. You guys played the game, right? They did it with Frank and Bill because they gave him a whole episode. Right? They gave him a whole episode to have a relationship. So here these guys got the whole episode with the boy and the father.
One thing that didn't show up in the game that the show has is Ellie. So in the game, it's a spoiler for you.
Don't worry about it.
Scott, if you don't mind, I'm going to talk about it.
Don't worry about it.
The game has been there for 10 years, man. So
of course. No. I'm not, believe me, it's all good. It's like, I don't know that I'm ever going to get there. I'm still stuck in the first basement. So,
You're still in the basement?
I didn't play all week.
Oh, you got PS5, man. You got to do it. Yeah. In the game, it's different. In the game, the way that Ellie showed friendship, the way that I care about you, Sam, is still there's a little toys in the toy store. And then she was put that in the back without being noticed by either Henry or Joe, and then secretly give it to Henry and Sam and say like, oh, if you don't, let him find out, then it's not a problem. So you take it. And of course, Sam knows he's going to turn. So he's like, throw that away and then look at his legs and then just get disappointed and then get turned. And Ellie does not know that. But in this episode, he showed that to Ellie. And Ellie was just do this and then bleeding. And then she said, this is medicine. And then put that on top of Sam's leg. That is extremely impressive, and it's a much stronger way to show Sam is an important person to me. Later on the game, at the last moment of the season 1, Ellie says this. I have a really good friends died back then in the Boston, and then Marlene, then the other people, and she also mentioned about Sam, and I think the way that she does this bleeding and then put the blood on top of Sam's leg is a stronger way to tell, hey, this person, we haven't met that long of time, but this is an important person to me, So that's, was much, well done compared to the video games, that specific part, in my opinion. Very impressive.
I think she's riding the high a little bit of being a hero. Like, she saved them under the car. And now she's like, you know what? Like, what's the purpose of me being immune if I can't help people? Like, of course, like, I have medicine. Like, here, like, let me fix this. And that's why I really like that whole part, like her, and this got me in the video game too, where she admits like her fear is being alone, like being left alone. Like, if everyone else dies and I'm the only one here, like when I first played the game, like I remember just like bursting into tears, right? And then just like the whole way those two actors really brought that into that moment with the little writing, and like everything was just so well done. And then for her to be like not afraid of Sam, she's just very much like, let me try to fix it. Let's not freak out yet. Let's see what we can do. Right. Still trying to do that. And so then all of that's coming together. And then when Sam does turn, that scream that she has is anguish. It's not fear. Like when you really listen to how she's screaming, she's crying, screaming, like she's afraid, but it's also just pure anguish of like, it didn't work.
Yeah, and it's the opposite of,
I have to give Bella Ramsey like all the credit for pulling in and bringing together that entire moment in just one scream.
Yeah.
Who does that?
No, it's stunning. So listen to you guys talk about that scene. And now there's another reason, why I like this show compared to other typical zombie. This is a Gaia myth, right? She's Mother Earth. And what I love about it, in order to save the boy, she has to do violence to herself. See, in Gaia myths, women giving birth, there's a lot of violence that goes on in birth, right? And so they don't have these views that distinguish right and wrong, good and bad. Gaia myths don't do that. Gaia myths, they know that the world is a beautifully ugly, bloody mess. And the religious teachings, whatever you want to call it, are built around that. So when she cuts her hand, that's, Mother Earth trying to save itself. Trying to save him, but save, and then I start thinking of Kill Bill, particularly Kill Bill 2. I don't think Tarantino knew he was making a Gaia myth. And you compare that to, for example, The Walking Dead, where it's a patriarchal system where the dude's trying to create a world of justice again, right? I mean, it's and that difference, that fundamental difference, I think has a lot to do with the difference in the shows. It's not just that one's male and one's female. It's the whole mythology, it's the whole worldview that comes with those genderings of what's right and what's good. So I think it was, I'm going to claim it's a Gaia myth and we'll see what happens.
So can we talk a little bit about Kathleen? Because, I mean, okay, so I'm laughing because like, as I was watching her, so she's in that room, right? And she's talking to Perry and explaining like, my brother was always the good one. I'm not a good person. Like I never have been. Like he told me to forgive. Like that is not me. And she's got this look on her face. And all of a sudden I'm like, she looks like me. We're built the same. She's saying the things that I say. Remember back in the first episode where I was like, kill the kid. Like, and so like listening to her struggle with that and be like, I let him lead because he's the good one. And it didn't work out. And now I'm feeling a little insecure because I am doing this. And then Perry looks at her and says, you made change. We're with you. And like, I know we're not supposed to root for her, but I'm also kind of like, yeah, you did. Yeah. Like you did it. You did the thing. And then later when she's having that speech and she's like, and this is really, I think, setting up the whole season's purpose, right? Is kids die all the time. Kids, who are you to mess with fate? Who are you to burn the entire world down for one kid? And that goes against everything that I feel as a mom. Mm-hmm. And I could not deny her that either, though. Like I couldn't really say, I mean, let's face the fact, she's basically burning down the world because of her brother who's not even alive anymore. So like hypocrite, but, and she's not wrong. Right. And so it's almost like, of course you do everything that you can for this one person. Of course you save who you can save. And of course she's going to be upset about this. And of course she's going to come for you. So she's like, it just ends the way it ends. It's like, back to what we've said before, that lack of moralizing, I find really refreshing here. They just put it all on the plate. And I genuinely am like, I can't side either way.
So what I love about what you just said is maybe when we feel we can side either way, that's the illusion, right? And the moralist will assume that there's a right or a wrong way to do it and experience everything that violates that as wrong. And they just live in that binary space. I would argue that's the illusion, right? And the reality is it's all a beautifully ugly mess. And, looking at humans as individual psychological systems with all kinds of desires, all kinds of energies, all kinds of different things, dare I say, often when I hear people trying to talk about what the right thing to do is, they're usually trying to persuade me to do what they want. And when I say, when I say things like, I prefer not to use that language, I just prefer to hear what you want, because I'm going to tell you what I want, and then we're going to negotiate there. People feel I'm being cynical, right? But I think it's worse than cynical to run around with the right and the wrong, because usually right is used by people in positions of power that keep them sustaining that space. So you got to give it to the writers. I mean, like I said, I haven't played the game, but to create this world where, and Stanford said this in our podcast with him, it was Stanford and Sienna, a world where you don't feel like short thrift is being given to any particular worldview. They're just worldviews trying to keep themselves going in a shitstorm, right? Just great complex character. And yes, she's going to tell him that why did you take everything down because of one kid? Well, she's taking everything down because of one brother, but she doesn't experience it that way at all. She's got this bubble she's in, sealed with grief, by the way, and she's going to that's where she's living from. And okay, I'm babbling a bit now, but when the guy says to her, you made change happen, you did things. Well, it tends to be people in those kind of grief bubbles, those anger bubbles, those bubbles that are willing to cross those thresholds that others won't. And then they get followed. And then people say later, like, well, you made change happen. And I'm not at all judging or saying they're wrong, because, the Civil War happened. Right. So I'm not trying to sit here and say, it's wrong. That's the violence is wrong. It's a Gaia myth. So violence is part of the reality. It's not good or wrong. It's just part of what's going on. And that makes me sound Nietzschean. Then people may think that means I'm nihilist. And so I just keep those kind of ideas in my pocket at a party.
But it is what it is. She says that. It ends how it ends.
Yeah.
And she thinks she knows what the ending is. I will, and last thing, and then I'll stop on this one. But
no, go ahead, because I babbled for 5 minutes.
One thing that speaks to her character with that is that never once does she lie. When he says let the kids go, she could have told, Negan totally would have lied, right? Yeah. Joel totally would have lied. Rick totally would have lied, and she was like, "Yeah, look, so we both know we're not doing that. Right. No, just walk up, bring yourself out here, I could really, the fact that she's just strolling up with this gun strapped to her leg and is like, it ends how it ends. And I'm just going to take all of you down.
Yep.
It was, and then for her to get the end that she got because she was so focused on her vengeance and so focused on all of that, I think was appropriate. It was a satisfying end to her character, but I was digging it. I was really rooting for her there for a bit.
Yes, I love it. And I love your willingness to say you were rooting for her, right? I mean, because we live in such a binarily constrained intellectual space. People aren't willing to say what they want. People feel they have to say the right thing. And that just constrains the quality.
She gets past that. And they're like, there's cars in the way. She's like, why do you think you're out front? The cars.
Exactly.
She's just very what is wrong with everybody?
Yeah. Get on board, Joe. We got stuff to do. Yeah.
I think that the show has its advantage in explaining the hunters and those people's perspectives that tells, hey, no one is right and no one is wrong. They're living their life, and it just conflicts, and it becomes like you said, Scott, beautiful mess. And it's amazing to see different people's perspectives in different small or big groups. And I know there's more groups coming up, especially in season 2. So I'm very excited to see what's behind them, actually. Yeah.
It has been very nice to kind of see, because in the game you only find some of these subplots by finding the little letters and reading them, and you have to do the work to find them, read them, connect the dots. So the other thing that I loved about this episode was being able to see Ish and his story, because in the video game, Ish is you find a boat and you find his first letter, and it's well, I ran out of supplies. F me, I guess I have to live on land now. And then he opens himself up and starts trading. And then builds this whole thing that ends up in that room that you see in the show where the kids are. And it's a whole underground thing. And then you get to find out what happened all through these little stories that are left. And I love when video games do that because it satisfies your curiosity about the greater world without forcing you into it if you don't want to, right? So like if you really want to know what happened, you can take the time to figure out what happened here. So I really appreciate the show paying homage to one of what I felt like was one of the more beautiful, more fun, hopeful little stories that happened in the game that ultimately ended because someone left a door open. And that's all it took was one door was left open, and this entire settlement got taken out that had a school and had laundry and had like a whole little system that was working, kids, and it was working really well. And it was just a really good testament to like how these things do not endure and survive. And so I think that was a really good moment, and I really appreciate that nod to the video game players.
There you go. And how cool was it that a comic book shows up, right? Shows up in the apocalypse, gives us the title of the episode, and so someone in that writing room loved comic books.
On the games, because you collect comic books in the games. Like,
okay.
Yeah. So right. I think that might be what's his face, but
well, if I ever get out of the basement, maybe I'll find one of those comic books. Anything else you guys want to say about this episode?
I actually have one more thing, because I think the most fun part to play in the video games. Are we going to talk about video games gameplay later, or can I say now?
You can do it now.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the gameplay, there's a moment where Joe try to open the door made out of iron, and all of a sudden the trap was broken, and Elli was trapped with Henry, the other side, and Sam and Joe stuck in the other side. And there's two sides going on, and we played Joe's part. So you took Sam and then go through different parts and kill not only clickers, there's also what's that? Stalkers,
yeah.
Stalkers, runners, all sort of zombies, and then they meet up together and run out of that place that's full of zombie. We didn't get to see what's happening in Henry and Ellie's sides, and I was expecting that to be happen, but these entire parts of that video games are just not included. So that's kind of like man, it could have been cool to see if that's included, but.
So you could see because you learn a lot, like when he has Sam with him. And it's one of those where it's like, oh, why did we split up? But it was a cool, like, well, now you have to meet back up because you have each other's kid. Like there's no abandoning each other at this point, right? Like you're not going to be able to like get away from each other. So that was really cool. I think like the way they did it in the game, it would have been even more interesting because Sam's character is deaf in the show. And so what would have happened if Sam had ended up stuck with Joel, who doesn't know sign language? Like how would they have communicated through that? That would have been really interesting. And shout out, by the way, his name is Kevon Woodard, I think. And what a performance as Sam coming in like with the sign language and the like attitude with his face and like the whole like whew.
All right, so that is one thing they're accomplishing really well in this series is the cameos, the one episode acting bits. I remember season 3 of Walking Dead. There was an episode, and I don't remember the actor's name. It was called Clear. The episode was called Clear, and he'd been left in a town by himself. And he went around killing the zombies in the town himself. And now he's in the new Walking Dead spinoff. It's not new. It's been on for 5 years. Oh, I don't remember. He's an English guy. I don't remember. But that was one of those Walking Dead episodes that was almost sacred, right? Because this is a guy who got left alone in a town and saw it as his job. Oh, he's the one whose son was eaten by his wife. He had his wife locked in the cellar.
Oh, yeah.
The boy opened it and he got him. Yeah.
I can see him in my head.
Man, what an acting job. Just unbelievable.
Morgan.
Yes,
Morgan.
I was going to say Morgan, but then I kept coming up with, Freeman, and I said, no. But yeah, it was and then of course he became constant on what's the other one? Fear of the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, so they just keep lining up these episodes with these characters doing these cameos that are just great. I mean, memorable, and they don't dilute from the plot. They don't feel like devices.
And do you all know the child actor?
Yeah.
He's actually using sign language.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's I think he's I don't know the other figure. I don't know if it's his father, but it looks like in at the end of the episode, they're talking about the whole experiences that they have. But it's, I don't know, the director Neil Druckmann and other folks. There's multiple directors for the shows. They're so, in my opinion, they're so deliberately bring in the social problems in the shows and games to help people. In some ways, sometimes more impactful than educators and psychologists. Very interestingly impactful for a lot of people. And I don't know if you check those YouTube comments. I'm going to those like games and those like reviews about games and see what people make their comments. There are a lot of hate comments, right? And there's some videos saying like, hey, I feel like 80% of the haters now become a lover of the games, and there's still 20% left to be whatever, still haters and whatever. But there's just many indicators that these games and shows probably going to impact a lot of people. And yeah, that's very impressive. Yeah.
Well, that's go ahead, Leandra.
I was gonna say, I think when I realized that they had changed the character to be deaf and he was like wearing like the superhero stuff, I almost wondered they would change the outcome of his death, just because it would have been I'm gonna say this selfishly, like it would have been really nice to see someone who's deaf survive an apocalypse where one of the people you're working up against is the clicker, right? Like that's like overly sensitive to hearing. And so
that'd be interesting.
It would have been a really cool, I think, matchup to maybe let Sam and Henry survive and go their own way for some reason. Maybe they get separated like they do in the game, and instead of coming back together, like they kind of have to go their own way, and then that could have been a glorious spinoff. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying.
That'd be so cool, yeah.
The whole point, I think, of the show was not only the endure and survive, but there's a lot of superhero themes with the comic book and the way Sam is dressed and his drawings and what Ellie's trying to do. And so I was getting a little hopeful because they were kind of setting him up as like the anti, clicker, right? Like so I don't know. It was I'm glad that they're staying true to the story, and I have enjoyed when they've deviated from it. Because when they do it, they don't do it just for what it looks like on the screen, but because it makes sense and because it tells a story that includes more people, like it's more representative.
Right.
But that was my one little wish. Like I really didn't want that one to happen.
Well, they do need to be careful, because if they keep doing cameos that die, eventually you're just going to expect it. I didn't expect the deaths at the end. And the suicide was stunning. It was just stunning. For me, I've never been in that situation, so I can't speak as an expert. At the same time, as a systems theorist, you can see just the oscillations his psychic states are going through when he shoots, saves Elli. You see the pooling blood. His mind can't find a place to stay. He's just boom, 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 boom. And the intensity he takes his own life, that seemed realistic to me, that you'd be in such a destabilized state, and just the level of grief that would be coursing through the system at that point. It doesn't surprise me. And then then it makes me rethink what Joel was doing in the moment. Because originally I thought Joel was just trying to get the gun so he wasn't shot. And then when I watched it the second time, it's no, Joel knows what's going on. And just, that's why he's not being mean. He's not being, give me the gun. He's just, come on, man, chill up. And why is Joel doing that? Because the calm will help the oscillation. right? And it ends up not working in a way that, first of all, I'm glad they didn't show it. Second of all, I was like, damn, I did it again, man.
I will say, I am worried that people are going to stop, because so far they've done a great job of making you really love and care about the characters and giving them their justice before they're gone. I'm a little worried that they stick to this, like we're going to lose that, because I'm worried you can only do it so many times before it loses its impact. One thing I will say about like that scene too, when he's oscillating, is in the video game, he says, "This is your fault" to Joel, and they changed the show to "What did I do?" which I think is a little bit more in line with what happens when the differences between how things get to where they get, and I think it makes more sense. I think also the way I read it or experienced it was that I took a man that I loved and looked up to and turned him in to save this boy. I have made this my thing. I have burned down the world for this. What did I just do? Like, was any of it worth it? You know what I mean? Like, you have to imagine in that moment, he's thinking, every decision I've made is to prevent this exact thing from happening. And I just pulled the trigger. I undid everything. Everyone's dead. And
there's no way out. There's no way to live with it. There's no memory space that'll work. And so it worked brilliantly in this episode. And you're right. If they do keep it up, we're going to start calling them red shirt Star Trek characters, right? I mean, they're there to progress a plot for someone else. So I would hope they're going to slow down a little bit on the ancillary character death, but we'll see. Because like you said, we're going to get used to it.
Another thing that I was paying attention is the contrast between Elli and Joe in same situations. Referring back to the situation where Elli is running to Sam and Henry to save them, I don't think Joe would be doing the same thing if Joe is in Ellie's position. And he's like a crap. I'm doing this because of you, Elli. You do your thing. I have to protect you. But at the same time, at the end of the scene when they Henry commits suicide, in the game, they actually give the screens to Joe. Joe's reaction was like this, and Joe knows what's going to happen. And Joe tried to make it, not try to not make it happen, but unsuccessful. At this time, when Henry killed Sam, infected, at the time, they turned the screen to actually Elli. And Ellie's reaction is like, I didn't know it's going to happen. And Elli was much, much shocked after the shot, And even at the end of the show, Elli was getting more cold, more like, what Joe may express when there's, some death happening. And I think that shows the contrast, Joe is still maintaining cold in himself, like maybe morally a little bit different than other people. But Alex is slowly, getting more and more impacted emotionally. Was interesting things to see between these two people to me,
Yeah, and they're setting that up. They're setting, in other words, now that he's really kind of living a parental role, he's going to be asking himself, is my take on the world good enough to be a role model? And they started a little bit in the last episode, and I think they'll grow on that. And I think the two they're going to become more and more about each other. And that's why I love the scene with the gun in the distance, because you can be about it. Look at me, here we are talking, we're thousands of miles apart from each other, right? I mean, that's, human beings can do that. Any final comments on this episode?
So can we do the game debrief? I know we've talked about it a lot.
Yeah, no. Go ahead.
But I gotta
go ahead.
Listen, in the game, when the sniper is shooting and you gotta sneak around, Joel in the show just like whoop doop doo, just gonna go do it.
I thought he was a bit carefree.
You know what? In the video game, you have to get through 3 houses. Each one is full of goons that you have to kill. They're all coming at you.
Yeah.
Right.
Too easy. They made it too easy on him.
So my take on that, because I'm sitting there watching and I'm thinking, this dude is being a bit too cavalier, right? Well, here's how they solved that. I suspect he was a little tired that day, didn't want to do all that running and dodging, and just said, okay, throw in the line that he's a crap shot. And that's what he does. He said, trust me, he's a crap shot. Don't worry about it. That way I get to just, because I mean, even though he was cavalierly moving, there were clouds of bullet debris around him. It's like, no, I wouldn't be that calm, even if the guy's a bad shot, absolutely.
I don't know how many times you had to play that to get through, but
that's hard part.
They just came out of nowhere. Like you would be inside a house and you're like, oh, great, I have shelter. This guy can't get to me, because one shot from him would take out like 75% of your health. Like it was awful. And then randomly some dude would just drop out of the ceiling on you. And it's like, anyway, took it too easy on Joel.
There you go.
Maybe that's the reason that they placed that, I don't know if he's disabled or not, but it looks like he's not really comfortable moving around. The guy who's shooting there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason. But I agree. I was expecting more when he's going there, like some more shootings or whatever going on. But it was like, and then like, don't move, and then bam, done. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then he's like, just give us an hour, and I'm like, that's not gonna work. Look,
right.
Like, you met Kathleen, like she's hunting down a 6-year-old or 7-year-old, however old Sam is. Like this man is not messing with that. He's old enough to know better.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that was my only. I mean, I love that they brought in Ish. I love that they gave us a little nod to his story. And I know for this show they're really playing up how old Joel is, more so than in the video game.
Yeah, they are.
He had too easy of a time getting up to that building.
I agree.
I spent an hour of my life trying to do that.
Yeah, I bet you there's no line in the game where he says to Elli, he's a crap shot. Right. I mean,
because he ain't.
Because he ain't. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
One thing I really satisfied was the area looks almost the same as the game. I was like, wow, look at you all. How did you even make it? Was it very similar?
Yeah, like even the embankment and like the way the cars are set up, like the whole thing was. And I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet. So they added the whole part about how like the infected were like buried underground basically and like come up. So that shot where the tank like runs and catches on fire, that does happen. But it does not happen with such spectacular outcomes. I've been waiting on the bloater to show up, and I was not disappointed. I'm very sorry, Jeffrey Pierce, that you had to get your head ripped off. I love that they gave us the bloater and the like 6-year-old contortionist in the same episode.
Oh my God.
I didn't think I have ever seen like a baby infected in either seasons. I don't recall that. Yeah, that's a new thing.
That was stunning.
Like the little kid, and like that actress is so like proud of herself too. She's like, yeah, I just all over the place.
So that's something that someone had to figure out, right? Is someone had to imagine, how is this system going to use every degree of freedom in its body to get where it wants to get? It's going to not care about pain. So if it doesn't care about pain, what's it going to do? Well, it's going to do stuff like that, right? And that someone figured that out. And that's just very, very cool and scary as hell.
And not able to like the idea that the child was using all 4 limbs to get through. Like, of course, that would make sense, right? And it did not hit me until watching it the second time that they were sitting in a school and then all the clickers came out and there's children. So like, of course there is. The school was infected.
Right.
And so these little things, these little reminders of like, maybe it did endure, but it most certainly did not survive. Like, you know what I mean? Like, anyway.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
I love most of the changes. Joel should have had more resistance getting to that thing. It's fair.
Agreed.
And I really liked the entrance of the bloater and the child. That was really good. That was well done.
That was good horror. I mean, it was just really, really good horror.
It is. Bloater hasn't used his weapon yet. The whatever things he throws,
You think they're gonna do that? Because they got rid of the spores.
Oh, was it spores?
So, yeah, but it was like he just like pulled chunks of himself off it, and when he hit you with it, it would take a little bit of your health away because it would like explode, but it would explode into spores. And so I don't really know what they're going to do with that, but that would be really cool because I love the idea of like I am my own weapon. I'm gonna pull off
Right.
these growths and hit you.
Yeah, so gross. Gosh.
I hated it so bad. I hated fighting them because I never had enough shotguns shells. Like you can only use so many things for the bloater, right? And those are always, I'm like a heavy hitter. I go in like the heaviest gun I have on me is what I always use. Anyway.
Well, if I ever get out of the basement, I may be able to try to catch up with where you guys were, because you guys have been through many times. Shengtian, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media?
I got Twitter. My name. If you type my name, Shengtian Wu, then you can find me. I don't do Twitter that much, but at times I just post something, but once a year, I guess.
Fantastic. How about you, Leandra?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm a little bit of a lurker. I don't post, but I do look every day. So, but you can find me at Parris Leandra, at Parris Leandra.
Fantastic. Well, Shengtian, thank you so much for joining us on the episode today. It's fantastic to speak with another gamer, right? You can talk about those differences. You can find all episodes of Surviving the Last of Us on YouTube at the Dark Loops Productions channel. If you want to write comments about what we just said, just type them on this YouTube page, or you can send an email to darkloopsproductions@gmail.com, and we will be sure to discuss it at the end of our next episode. So there it is. From all of us to all of you, big hugs, and remember, endure
And survive.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.